Great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Glenn Pastor. I'm the chair of the Swampscott School Committee. Welcome to our regular session meeting on Thursday, May 14th at 6 p.m. We're running a couple minutes late. Sorry about that. We're at 200 Essex Street in Swampscott, room B129. And I call this meeting to order. And if you are so able, can you please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Okay. Let's start with public comment. Is there anyone out in the world of the internet who would like to comment?
No.
All right. Seeing none. I know there's a lot of people here tonight, but I don't see anyone's hand raised. I don't see anyone on a piece of paper. So we will move forward with that. Committee comments. Sasha, let's start with you.
For updates that I have, the Heritage Festival for SoCA has been moved to tomorrow for Saturday. Also, the class of 2029, the current freshmen, they're hosting a Touch a Truck event, I think here at the high school.
It is, yeah.
Okay. $5 per person, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
I think that's it from me other than spring sports. I heard they're all doing really well, and yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of old. What's a Touch the Truck event?
Touch the truck. It's like little kids go and they
Oh, gotcha.
They touch the fire truck.
yeah.
Yeah, I might go myself for $5. All right. Why don't we just break it up a little bit? Leah, how are you?
I'm good. I know I've been here in a while.
You got important stuff to do. It's good.
Yeah. I don't really have much. I know that junior prom was last Friday. It went really well. And yeah, other than that, I feel like Sasha covered most of the upcoming events.
All right. Thank you very much. Ms. Arrington.
I want to congratulate the Swampscott Elementary School for a great fun run. They haven't released the total number that they raised, but the kids had a blast, and I hear it's successful.
Excellent. All right. Ms. Caesar.
This is a little past due, but on May 2nd, Katie and I attended the Massachusetts Association for School Committee training, an all-day training, and I just have to say it was incredibly informative, and it was so well run. I mean, there aren't many days that you can spend an entire day just learning something, and it was very good. And the other thing I would just say is the Ed Fund had a fundraiser last Saturday night that was so crowded. There was standing room only. It was a wonderful success. I'm sure some we'll talk about later.
Great. Thank you. Go.
I'll just add a little bit to what Martha said. The mask association's definitely been pushing out a lot of information around the budget stuff for the state and Chapter 70. They also recommend to any of our select board people out there or finance committee that you can also go to our school committee training day. They're always happy to have other officials there. But other than that, just excited for our town meeting and seeing that we're working with the rec department to offer some childcare in this room. So if you haven't signed up for that, check it out. It's one of our try and see how it goes kind of thing. So hoping for a success.
Great. Thank you very much. The only thing I'll add to that comment is I did send an email to both chairs of the Select Board and the Finance Committee regarding MASC was having a class on Chapter 70, which I thought would be really apropos to everybody, and just wanted to share that information as well. And again, just to tell the public that the Mass Association of School Committees offers a lot of great classes. And if anyone out there is interested, I'm sure we can make that happen. I know that for our upcoming summer workshop, either in July or August, we'll have the MASC here and talk about some of that. All right. So now committee chair, that's me.
Right.
Ooh,
Make a comment as well?
of course you can.
You've forgotten someone.
Good. Oh, John, you know what? You know, you're quiet. I'm sorry, I never should have gone before you. I apologize.
Just,
All you.
I'll add it to
Now you have to say something now.
No, I had a couple of things I just wanted. So I heard also good things about the junior prom. I actually My wife and I came up here, we saw the red carpet, so that was exciting, and kids were all very excited, and heard it went very well also.
Great.
And I know in the next couple of weeks, there's a lot of senior activities coming up, so I know the seniors are looking forward to those. And just as far as town meeting, I just want to add on to what Miguel said. I'm looking forward to it as well. You know, we've done a really, I think as a committee, a really good job of getting information out, attending other committee meetings, other boards, having them come to us. I think we've done a really good job of kind of, I don't know if educating is the right word, but informing a lot better than we have in the past. So I'm hoping that will make for a much smoother town meeting experience for all of us. So that was it, Glenn. Thank you.
Sorry, my apologies. A couple comments from me. Again, John, I completely agree. We've worked really hard. God bless you. Over the last many months of answering, answering questions from both the Select Board and the Finance Committee. Also, some really interesting Chapter 70 questions from the community that I was happy to answer. There were there was no debate back and forth. They were looking for information that I happened to have. So I'm also looking forward to town meeting. I think that we've laid the groundwork. I don't foresee, but again, knock on wood, who knows? We'll be prepared. Jason, myself, John, and Charlie are going to meet on Monday just to go through scenarios, but I am looking forward to it myself. So a couple comments from me, just a couple updates. One, I also do want to say that I did attend the Swampscott Education Foundation event Saturday night, and I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, you know, I remember what it was, and it was amazing. I remember going to a couple amazing events at just various places that were hundreds and hundreds of people, you know, dressed to the nines. So it was great. Saturday night was just awesome. First of all, it was a really yucky night outside. You know, hats off to really everybody. I was going to go through some notes, so I apologize for reading my phone in advance. Especially to Casey Duran and her team. They did just a great job. It was fantastic. It was really great seeing 100, 150 or so younger parents, you know, parents of younger kids. And I think that really bodes well for the future of the district, the future of this school committee. And hopefully some of those folks will, you know, obviously continue their work and donations to this SEF, but will consider other things, be it town meeting, be it school committee, be it whatever. We need those voices in, and I think that helps a lot. Couple other things from me, and a big reminder. On May 26th, which is a Tuesday at 2:45, please join the Swampscott School Committee colleagues, friends, as we unveil a plaque and street sign in order of the years of service and dedication to Pam Angelakis, to the Swampscott Public Schools. The event, as I said, is Tuesday the 26th of May at 2:45. It's at the elementary school. I really hope as many people attend as possible. Ms. Angelakis gave her career for this district, and I think anything we can do and honor her is well-deserved. So please join me in attending. I'm just kind of going in random order here. Back to town meeting again. We do have sessions scheduled for Monday and Tuesday, the 18th and 19th. At 6 o'clock, we will meet in the library. If there is nothing to talk about, we'll quickly meet and adjourn, and we'll take it from there. I don't anticipate the need of this. However, we want to be just ready just in case we do need to meet. And so again, that's the 18th and 19th at 6 p.m. in the library. That is our space, and just in case you know that. All right. Couple other things for me. I do really want to dovetail what John was saying. I think every year when we go through the budget, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for the Finance Committee, it's a challenge for the Select Board, it's a challenge for us. Because we are always going to be at loggerheads. I mean, we want the most money for the district. That's our job, the 5 of us here. Our job begins and ends with the school district. Doesn't begin or end with the town, doesn't begin or end with anything else. It begins with the school district. That said, I know I've said it before, I publicly want to thank Select Board Chair Katie Phelan and Finance Committee Chair Eric Hartman. We have met many, many times, not only for us as a group, but in Tri-Chair. And I think the biggest thing that I came across from that was we had people who wanted to make this work. And, you know, as I said to them, although I need to fight for the school budget, I also know there's only so much apple in the pie. And I think that really helped us, and us as a group, you know, being willing to really take a hard look at our budget. And we are in pretty good shape, you know, compared to some of the other districts. Granted, we don't have the reserves that I think all of us here think we should, but that's where we are right now. But I am really proud of what we did, the transparency, what we did. And, you know, you're never going to satisfy everybody, and that's okay. That actually doesn't bother me, as long as we satisfy the majority. And then I think the majority is very satisfied in what we did. And Superintendent Kalishman, you know, even before a town meeting happens, you've done a very good job. You and your team, you know, your first go-round at this, you know, really running the show. Ms. Stella, Martha, and everyone else who was involved in that. We can't control what town meeting does. They control our budget. But I am confident that we were as transparent as we possibly can be, given what our limitations are with that transparency. So, thank you. Next, something that we as this group have not done in a long time, be it COVID or anything else, is evaluate a superintendent. Jason, you're lucky you get to be there.
Yes, very excited.
So it is dictated by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Every superintendent is evaluated the same way. I will be sending the entire board an evaluation of the superintendent. Martha and Katie, you will not participate in this because you haven't been around. But I want you to see the length and breadth that we have to go through. My goal, Jason, you have to self-evaluate, and we can talk about that offline, about when you want to get that back. My goal is to get that done and to present the evaluation to the community on June 11th. I finally get that date right. Because we are not meeting at the end of June, and we really don't meet much in the summer. We have our workshop, but we want to, and I don't want to wait till September, because by September, we're going to be asking the superintendent to have year 2 goals. Now, the evaluation is a little bit different for a first-year superintendent, but it's a lengthy process. The superintendent does a self-review. I'll send forms again to everybody, to John and Miguel. There's a lot of work for you guys to do. I then take I share what I write. By the way, as it was pointed out to me, whatever we write is public and is shared with the superintendent and the public. So I just...
So it's not like the
it's-
town administrator
Right,
where...
it is not like the town administrator thing, as everything we write, to my knowledge and how I was guided, is available to the public. So just keep that in mind. An evaluation is an evaluation. There are rooms for improvement, and we take it from there. So what will happen is, again, Jason will write his self-evaluation. He'll send it to me. I will burst it out to the 5. Although it is public record, we consider that privileged as of right now until we do evaluate the superintendent, so please don't share. John, myself, Miguel will write a evaluation. And I will look at all of those. I will review those, and then I will have a document using all 3 of our thoughts and feelings about that, and I will put that into a formal evaluation tool, which is, again, listed in here, and I'll share that with the remaining members of the board, and then we will do this in public. For those of you who have never done it in public, just candidly, it's uncomfortable. It just is. It just, if you think of your evaluation, you're sitting there and, the entire company's watching. So it is uncomfortable, but that's how the Commonwealth sets it up, and that's how we'll do it. At any time during that evaluation, the people who were part of the evaluation can make comments to the superintendent. Again, to both to Katie and Martha, that's just not an appropriate thing for you guys to participate. But you'll be able to do it next year. So that'll be going out. I'll send it via email. Although we have hard copies, I'll send via email. And then also some notes from both the MASC and from the superintendent's mentor, who helped me, kind of wrap my hands around the time frame. I know it's a little bit tight, but I think within a month we can get this done. But it is going to take some work on all our part. All right. Okay. Any questions, thoughts about that? Okay.
Sounds great.
Excellent. I know you're incredibly excited.
Wear your nice suit.
All right. The major thing I want to talk about tonight. Oh, before I get there, I am sorry. And I have to just take my phone because I have notes. My apologies for that again. I did meet with Casey Geron this morning. Again, Casey is president or co-president of the Swampscott Education Foundation. We met just to go over really the event and what really their thinking is. Because again, they're in their infancy of what they want to do. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we had talked about is just the current donation process. How does that work? Does that have to come to the school committee? Does it not? And I don't have a clear answer. I will ask the superintendent to set up a time for council and you to talk to make sure we're completely in agreement about what needs to get done. They are really, it's exciting what they're doing for this district. And again, having someone who lived through the past iteration of the Education Foundation, it really matters. Mm-hmm. It really helps our district. And, I know a question was asked. The money raised by the SEF has nothing to do with the school budget. I'm going to say it again. The money raised by the Swampscott Education Foundation has zero to do with our budget. So maybe no one can ask me that question any longer. That would be fantastic. Thank you. All right. So again, I met with Kate. We talked a lot about policies, procedures, and just how it relates to the donations. And really, as Casey said, they wanted to be educated on, what our protocols are. And so we'll if you could set up that meeting. Yep. I just want to be 100% sure. And I'm about 95% sure, but I want to just make sure that everything is correct.
Okay.
And then we can get back to Casey. Either you or I can get back to Casey about that. All right. And again, congratulations again to the Swampscott Education Foundation. An amazing event. I did buy some really cool earrings, by the way, for Susan. There's some amazingly cool earrings. Dangly ones. I'm a dangling guy. Anyways, probably much more than you needed to know. All right, so next on our agenda is the protocols. And no laughing at that. I get laughed at that all the time. So protocols, there are two documents that we have. One is the protocols and one is the guidebook. Guidebook has not been touched, as I mentioned last week, for a while. That's just going to take us a while. We probably won't even get to that. I know Miguel made a lot of suggested updates. The reality is we probably won't vote on that till September. I think, though, the protocols I want to vote on as soon as we can. I did ask for everyone to give me some idea if there's any changes. I know, Ms. Caesar, you had a couple suggestions, and we can talk about those. And I also had a couple minor suggestions. Most of mine were, we had chairman in there, we had chairperson in there, we had chairwoman in there. I just made it chair. Okay, there was a lot of ors. I changed those to ands, i.e. like contacting the superintendent or the chair. I've changed that to superintendent and the chair. Eventually, when the superintendent is ready, then that could probably go back to either or. But I was guided by the Mass Association of School Committees that given this is the first and the second, third year of of Superintendent Kalishman's tenure, we add the word "and" in there, and Jason and I talked about that. So I'm going to read through this, and I'm going to ask everyone for their patience. Martha, I do have your changes here, so I'll talk about those as they come.
Okay, great.
You're welcome. Again, please stop me at any time. Something like this has been in existence for a while. If we agree to this document, what I will do is I will have your office send it to everybody for their signature. We can codify it, we can put it on the website. All right? If something comes up we want to talk about, we can table the vote. This is our document. This is what we live by. All right, so, again, pardon my reading, but I really want to put this in the public record. So, Swampscott School Committee Operating Protocols 25-26. And actually, it should be 26-27. We'll change that date. As elected members of the Swampscott School Committee, we represent the educational and developmental needs and interests of all students in the district. We place their interest above all else in the decisions we make in order to ensure that the students of the district receive the best education possible. In accepting this role, we hold the pursuit of that goal as our duty. I did remove the word sacred. I just was a little funny about that, and I hope that's okay with everybody. Okay, yeah. I just a little funny about that. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. How we govern. We acknowledge that a school committee meeting is a meeting of the school committee that is held in public, but is not a public meeting. Okay, again, so basically what that means, I'm just going to, for the sake of our two new members, is when someone makes a comment, you know, a resident, anyone can make a comment, we listen, the chair, whoever the chair is, will say thank you, that is it. If it needs to be followed up and it's later, it's up to the superintendent to follow up. Okay, the school committee uses a modified version of Robert's Rules of Order to run our meeting, very similar to the town meeting. We shall conduct business through planned agenda items unless it is determined by the school committee chair that it would be detrimental to delay the issue until a subsequent meeting. I don't think I've ever done that. And I don't think I've ever been a part of a meeting that something has come up that has been so dire that we've had to add it to an agenda. It's really rare, and you can let your imagination run about why we would even have to do that, okay? I just read that, sorry about that. We shall strive to make each meeting effective and efficient, giving each member an equal opportunity to express their views and opinions and to relay their input in a concise and topic-focused manner. No member shall monopolize the discussion. All remarks must be directed through the chair. Remarks must be courteous in language and deportment. And I did look up the word deportment because I was unsure that fit there, and it does. All right, just want to make sure I do that. Okay. Here we go. We shall make our decisions based on information and not on personalities after considering data, the superintendent's recommendation, proposals, and suggestions. We will vote our convictions, avoid bias, and uphold and support the decision of the majority of the committee once a decision is made. We will explain the reasons for our votes. We shall attend meetings well prepared to discuss issues on the agenda and to participate in efficient decision-making. We shall ensure that we do not breach the open meeting laws by deliberating outside of duly convened meetings of the committee. Just again, for the sake of the new members, 5 of us can be at a meeting, and a select board meeting, at a town event. That's fine. What we can't do is talk about something that has anything to do with anything that's on an agenda, anything about the school district. We cannot do that. If someone overhears us, and you'd be surprised how often that happens, we have to kind of deal with that. All right. Where are we? Here we go. Public comment at meetings may be made on items not on the agenda or otherwise at the discretion of the chair. The school committee does not reply to those comments, as we discussed earlier. We shall respect the confidentiality of executive sessions and privilege information. Our actions shall be consistent with the core values of the district and be consistent with our vision of a professional organization. All right. Any questions about how we govern? Okay, good. I'm going to change that and change that. Okay. how we treat each other. Sorry. How we treat each other. We shall debate the issues keeping an open mind to others' opinions and/or positions. We shall exhibit professional conduct and behavior. We shall work to build trust between and among school committee members, the superintendent, and the administration by treating everyone with dignity and respect, even in times of disagreement. Any thoughts or comments about how we treat each other? Okay, great. How we communicate. Okay. We shall recognize, when I just do this. We shall recognize the importance of proactive and respectful communication. Martha suggested the word respectful be added in there. I'm fine either way. I'll leave it up. Let me just read the rest of the paragraph. We shall recognize the importance of proactive and respectful communication. If school committee members have questions or concerns, they agree to contact the superintendent and chair well in advance of a meeting. They agree there'll be no surprises, or basically, there's no gotcha moments. And that goes back to Pam. So if something hasn't been discussed, we don't normally just bring it up cold. It's not fair to the people in the audience. It's not fair to the superintendent. It's not fair to the rest of the people on the committee.
Lynn, you had down, did you take out the "or" just and the superintendent?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Are we, let's go bullet one. Are we okay with the word respectful added in there? Yep. Okay. I have no problem with that either. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. All right. Bullet 2, I did change. I want to make sure here. Yeah, bullet 2, I did change. We shall send requests for information through the superintendent and the school committee chair only, not direct to district staff. Only the superintendent reports to the school committee. Just makes it a little bit more clear that was on there. If you want me to read the bullet that was there, that's bullet 2. It says, the original one, we shall channel requests for information through the superintendent and/or school committee chairperson rather than directly to district staff. I don't want to make that a little bit more, a little stronger, and just take out the word shall channel, because I don't know what shall channel shall mean. So, okay. And next bullet. Make sure I don't miss anything here. We shall provide full disclosure of information and not withhold information from other members. So basically, if you know something, you got to share it with everybody on the committee. All right.
Actually, on that one?
Yes.
Would it make sense to say in a timely fashion or a timely manner?
Good with that? Everybody good with that?
Yep.
All right. In a timely manner, is that good for you, Jeff?
That's good.
Can I just circle back real quick to the channel request? I just think we should always be CCing the chairperson, the chair of the, like, I just think it's appropriate to have another set of eyes that our chair is looking at, unless there's a situation with said chair, but I think
And that's actually dealt with later.
Oh.
About that very specific thing.
That was
yeah, so one of the reasons that I changed it again from or to and is that, for that reason, is that the chair should just, whoever's sitting in the chair, 10 years from now, is that the chair should always know what's going on, again, unless it's a chair issue. And then that's addressed later on. Because again, and the superintendent always needs to be notified, because superintendent runs the show. We don't. That's a great question. All right, so we had in a timely manner. We're all set with that. Next, we recognize the chair or the designee as the official voice of the school committee. And basically what that means is that only the chair can speak for the school committee. And then the next bullet, the superintendent and school committee recognize the importance of working collaboratively with town officials to improve our schools, and we shall actively seek ways to enlist their support for our efforts. And I did clean this following language up. Town officials must make all requests for information through the chair for consideration by the school committee. The chair will forward all requests to the superintendent. I am actually going to add in a timely manner. And just so we all know what was on there originally, again, it had to do with, it's the same verbiage that we just took out is, what did we just say? Channel through. I just want to make it a little bit clearer, that's all. All right. Any other thoughts and comments other than what we've talked about is how to communicate?
In that last one,
Yes.
I was debating a little bit.
Okay.
Because I know there have been people that don't understand when a school committee speaks as a individual voter to another committee,
Yep.
that we're not talking as the school committee. I wasn't sure if there was anything where we might want to include that, yes, we do work collaboratively with our town officials and the other boards, but there may be times where you'll speak as an individual, and that's different.
Okay.
But that's why I was like, I
No,
don't know
I
if
mean,
it fits
it-
in there, but maybe
Yeah.
something we can just discuss.
So it's a really good point, and I'm going to actually ask my lawyer friend over there. I actually thought of that too, but to me, that's a First Amendment thing, right? We can go, just because we're school committee members, it's just like speaking at town meeting, right? We can speak at town meeting about anything. If someone has a question on the budget, then yeah, I'm a school committee member. And you should always kind of identify yourself that way. But we can go to any meeting under the First Amendment and say whatever we want. One of the things we can't say is, I represent the school committee, because we don't. What is your thought? Should we add something in there, or is that just not
I don't think we
necessary?
need to add anything. I think as long as we as a committee have that understanding, and, if we need to have, an additional, offline discussion, or another,
Yeah.
put it on the
Or
agenda.
it could be something that just goes in our
Guide.
Yeah, it could
guidebook.
go in there too.
Right.
Just because I always try to make sure that when I am making a comment, that it's like, I'm a school committee member, but I don't represent the views of the committee. I'm speaking as an individual. So
Right.
people know that it's like, don't
Yeah, I think the main
bring
thing
everybody
is,
else in.
I mean, we're not out there making policy on our own. I
Yeah.
think that's
Right.
like kind of the main,
Right.
main point, if you wanted to add that, here individually, I'm not representing any new policy statements or anything else.
Right. Okay. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
We good? Okay, great. All right. Great question. So now, how we improve. How we improve, okay. How we improve. All new school committee members will attend MASC orientation session as soon as practical. I did add best practices within 30 days, and I really appreciate you guys doing it within a week, which was great. But within 1 year of being elected. So I just put that in there just to codify it. Next, all members will be open. Oh, hold on, did I forget something? Oh yeah, I'll come to that in a sec, sorry. All members will be open to continued personal growth through participation in training opportunities. We talk about it, the more we all do, the better. We shall revisit operating protocol annually, which we're doing now. We shall develop and maintain a new district member orientation program. Martha had said we shall develop and maintain a new district, excuse me, read it again, I'm sorry.
Great.
We shall develop and maintain a district new member orientation within 2 weeks of a new member's term. I wasn't quite sure what you were driving at there.
Well, the point was that we had a school committee meeting like literally 2
Yeah.
days after our election. And so it just seemed like you sort of jumped in, and then I didn't know to whom I should ask questions. I didn't know any of this. And I came to my first meeting and had no knowledge of
Yeah.
what I was supposed to do. So somehow, if whatever that orientation looks like, because I don't know, we've had some tech training and things like that, but it does seem that you sort of get thrown into the pool and you don't know what the rules are, and it could cause some problems for all of
Right.
them. That's all I was trying to do, is put it some time frame there that it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think part of the challenge, and I know that the group of, who's working in town about moving the election date, it is a challenge for people to become, you're basically elected in the middle of a budget cycle.
Right.
And as I had mentioned to a couple people,
Yeah.
let's say we had 3 new members. That could have been a majority to change our budget. That could have been a real problem. I am hopeful, Martha, that when they change, it looks like they're going to change the date.
Yeah.
That'll make things a little bit easier, because it is difficult, and it's even more difficult because it's such a busy time of year for the staff. They're preparing for town meeting. They're dealing with end of year, all of that.
They're certifying an election.
Yeah, so there's just a lot going on. So I would maybe, if we could for this year, hold off on those 2 weeks and maybe revisit this next year.
Okay.
And hopefully by next year, they're going to change that election date. If they don't, we can go back and just put that in there, but I completely agree. It is not fair. It is absolutely not fair to anyone who's on any elected official to be just dumped into what is a highly stressful time of year. Do you ask questions? Do you not ask questions? And the thing with the school committee, it takes 12 to 24 months to even wrap your hands around what we actually do. It just does. That's just a fact. So let's table that, but I could not agree with you more about that, and I know it's a challenge. Okay, so we had, now this was limits of our authority. Great conversation, and I'll come back to that. We shall exercise leadership in vision, planning, policy, budgeting, evaluation of the superintendent of schools, and advocacy of the district, consistent with the law and our policies. We shall recognize that it is the superintendent's responsibility to oversee personnel issues and to manage the day-to-day operations of the district, and it is the school committee's responsibility to evaluate the superintendent's effectiveness in these manners. We shall recognize that authority rests only with the majority decision of the school committee, and we shall not make any independent comments or take any independent action that may compromise the school committee as a whole. I changed a couple words around here, very minor, but just so you guys know. We shall separate our roles, and this is one of the things that, Martha, you had suggested, and your last comment is actually written, is actually further down.
Yes.
So just hold on to that for a sec. Where are we here? Okay, bullet 4. We shall separate our roles as school committee members and district parent. Interactions with staff regarding issues/situations with our children, we will acknowledge our role as a school committee member and reiterate our business is solely as a parent. What I did is I just basically cleaned up the language. I took some of your words as well. Basically, at the end of the day, if you go in, you're going to meet about your kid, you just identify yourself. That's it. And I always said when I did it, I'm here as so-and-so's parent. If I overstep my bounds, let the principal know, let the superintendent know.
Right. But Glenn, one of the things is it's hard for a teacher to, or if a parent comes in and asks, if a school committee member comes in and identifies that they're not acting that way, but they're still asking for some special treatment or some special privilege, it still makes it hard for the teacher, the coach, or whomever to respond, because it is the school committee who's there. So I don't know, that's the piece that I talked about, not getting preferential treatment because we were on the school committee or because our children were on the school committee, because I know a long time ago, years past, sometimes things like that happened, that a school committee member might go in and ask for something and the person feels that they have to do it because the person's on the school committee. So I don't know how we can put that in there, but I do think it's something that we have to be really sensitive to.
Okay. So I just want to call your attention to further down, we do have a bullet that's already in there that says, we shall not use our position for personal or partisan gain. We can certainly talk about how to put something like that in. I'm going to go put this back to from a legal point of view. I don't know how we would say that.
I feel like that kind of falls a little bit under the operational part, under the superintendent, where if a teacher feels pressured or any faculty in the school feels pressured by someone on the committee, that they should report it to the superintendent, so that way it can be brought up to the chair and the committee, since that is one of the parts here that we won't use our position for any personal gain. And the only way that we'll know that someone has done that is if it gets reported up, because superintendent's the one that manages all of our staff, and if they're feeling uncomfortable, he's your person to complain to, so that way the chair understands and we can have our disciplinary conversations at that point.
Right.
I don't think I could have said that better. You consider law school at all?
I've done a lot of legal reading contracts and things in my work, so.
No, I think just, in all seriousness, I think that catch-all here, we shall not use our position for personal and partisan gain. I think that catch-all really
Okay.
is the key here.
Okay.
And,
But we're in an unusual situation because we're dealing with children. Do you know what I'm saying? So when you talk about the position for personal partisan gain, it sounds like you're talking about your own personal. Does that include your children?
I would, if you're there speaking on behalf of your child, I think it would pick that up as well, I would think.
Okay.
And again, it's, in my time on the committee, I think any member that had a child in the school system and there was an issue, both sides dealt with it with great sensitivity because, I don't think a school committee member would want, any sort of, escalation to the superintendent because of, some conversation, and vice versa, from the teacher and or principal. So I think as a committee, we've historically, the time I've been on, done a good job of, kind of, self-monitoring and, kind of self-governing on that, we don't, for me, I don't think we need to cover off every contingency. I just don't.
Yeah, I also feel like the personal gain does kind of fall on you, not the child, because the child can't really sign for anything in the district. You're the one that signs everything for them. So if there is any kind of gain for them, you're the one that's getting it for them.
Right.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's why any
You think it's
gain.
enough to say that, to say personal?
Yeah. I also get worried that we do overstep. Right. I absolutely hear what you're saying. Having done this a very long time, and as Martha can attest, we had some very, very heated meetings. But I don't think I've ever heard of anyone going beyond, and I also think it's a very different time. I think we are not like it may have been in the past. I think there's nothing that's going to prevent any educator, any principal from raising their finger and saying, "I'm out. We're done here." So I think it's a great conversation piece, but I think it is covered within the limits of authority. If something comes up and we're wrong, well, we can deal with that, and we can even be, Miguel, we can actually even be more precise within the guidebook. But I think for our protocols, I think this is fine. The other thing too, and I didn't put it in here, and I really thought about it, is I know what I used to do when I knew it was going to be a heated, IEP meeting. I'd let the superintendent know that I had a meeting. I said, I would drop the superintendent, the superintendent's doing nothing other than FYI for you, I'm going in the building today, which we should always do anyways, right? We can't just walk into a building. I let the superintendent know. So I think that covers it as well. Again, if something happens to, something comes up, we can do this, but, Miguel, I'd add that to your list of to the guidelines. Great conversation, everybody. Thank you. We're on the third to bottom bullet there. We shall follow the chain of command and direct others to do the same. Complaints and concerns regarding personnel will be directed to the superintendent. We shall not use our position to personal gain or partisan gain. We shall refer all important questions or concerns received from members of the community to the superintendent and chair. The superintendent, not any school committee member, has the authority to investigate. The superintendent shall provide committee members with their response. It is not the role of a school committee to resolve individual issues. I kind of said this last time too. If we all get an email from someone in the community and they happen to address to all 5 of us, the chair is responsible, whoever's sitting in the chair, is responsible for answering that particular person. That way, the answer is coming from the school committee, it's not coming from individuals, and that's just how it's always been since I've been on the committee, and I think we should continue to do that. All right. I know sometimes it gets a little challenging if the person is reaching out as a friend and something you want to help with, take it from experience, that's something you just want nothing to do with. All right? All right. Any questions, thoughts, any more discussion about limits of authority? All right. Lastly, when things go wrong, we shall work together to clarify and restate discussions in order to strive for full understanding. We shall recognize the importance of honoring our agreed-upon operating protocols and agree to take responsibility for reminding one another when we get off track. We shall maintain fidelity to these commitments, and will be held accountable by our fellow school committee members should any of us fail to live up to these commitments. If a school committee member or superintendent violates any of these operating protocols, they will be referred to the chair. In the case of the chair, to the vice chair. All right. Any thoughts about when things go wrong? All right. Anything we have not talked about that we think needs to be added, deleted, etc.?
One thing,
Yes.
since I've been looking at a lot of policy books at a bunch of districts,
Yeah.
I know some of them have a chart for the chain of command part
Okay.
that I wonder if we might want to do as well, since now we have department chairs, where we could potentially look to see where that information is, where parents can contact their own way in that method, but
So-
not sure if that's something.
Yeah, so the only thing that just jumps out at me, and I agree with you to a point, I really get worried about privacy of everybody.
Mhm.
You know, to me, it's as simple as, and I think if Becca and Sue from the union were here, I'm fairly certain that their members know, what happens. If a parent asks something, the parent goes to the teacher at the high school, department head, principal, or assistant principal, principal. So we could do something like that without getting, I wouldn't want to put names in there. But I'll leave that to you, Superintendent. What do you, I mean, it's really your call on that. I can go either way. I have no,
I would say, just as a former principal, I can tell you the amount of times I had to ask people, did they follow the changes? Have you talked to the teacher yet?
Okay.
Have you talked to the coach yet?
Right.
I think it's a good reminder for people.
all right. So would everyone be willing, how about if we had an addendum to this document that has that flow chart, let's call it?
Yeah, because as long as it just outlines
Yeah.
what it is, because
Okay.
you don't necessarily have to put the names, but at least it's like, have you done all these
I
things?
think that's a great idea. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
John? Give me your thoughts. I can tell you got thought about that.
Conceptually, I don't have an issue with this. I guess, Miguel, just help me understand a little bit better what that chart will accomplish for, is this before they come to us? Is that what you're trying to prevent or?
Yeah,
or
so, because
clarify?
there are times where some people might reach out to us about situations, and we have to remind them that there's a chain of command that they need to follow. And I do believe we have it in our student handbook, that is the process, but just not sure if we wanted to include it in one extra area, so
Yeah.
it's clear no matter where they're looking.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if it's worthwhile to, maybe add a bullet point or two, saying that, and also, however, feel free to reach out to us if you want to. I mean, I don't want to
Yeah.
leave the impression that, that's not an option,
Yeah.
So that's really an interesting thought. I agree with you, Miguel. I don't know if it goes in our protocols.
Okay.
I think it might be a separate document for the website, which is actually not a bad idea. Martha, can I ask you to weigh in? What do you think about that? I mean, you deal with a lot of this, right?
I think you could have just a reference back to our handbook about who the appropriate person is for certain questions, because I kind of agree with Miguel, there's certain questions you may get that we're all helping people.
Yeah.
We all want to help people, but there's
Yeah.
definitely the people that will actually have the answer.
Okay.
So I don't think you might have to, you might just want to refer people back
Report
to
it
the handbook for the
that
check
page on
command.
the website.
Yeah,
Or-
link
right,
people back
right.
there.
So would you be okay with that?
Yeah,
All right, would
totally.
you guys be okay with that? So, could I ask you a favor? Somebody just send me the actual, someone send me the actual web page. I will put this in, I will clean up the document, I will send it to Nancy.
Okay.
So, with that, are there any last comments about this document? All right, so we'll vote on this later on tonight, if that is okay with everybody. All right, thank you for letting me do my reading. I think that is everything I had. From there, I talked about all that. That's it, I'm done. Superintendent, floor is yours.
Thanks, everybody. We're lucky to have Ms. Sturma here from the high school, and I'm sorry that you sat through that. So thanks for being patient, and you're up with,
We should have moved, I'm sorry.
no, that's okay.
That's my fault.
No
We
problem.
should have moved you up. Sorry.
So Ms. Sturma, take it away. We're going to pull up your presentation right now.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Sturma, one of the 3 school counselors at the high school. I also serve as the department chair. And so I come to you tonight with news about our graduating seniors, a little bit about last year's seniors, and then some testing data from AP and SAT. So each year, when our students leave us and graduate, we ask them for some data. We have them fill out a few things before they graduate, before they can get their cap and gown, to tell us, what are your post-secondary plans? What do you plan on doing? And so this is the self-reported data from last year's class. Currently, we're gathering that for the class of 2026, but they're down to the wire. They usually fill it out days before they pick up their cap and gown. So I've sent out my form, but I think a third of the class has filled it out so far. But we're finding the past class of 2024, 2025, we anticipate 2026 to be very similar. So if you look at this data, 85% of our class of 2025 reported that they were admitted and matriculated to a four-year school. Four-year school would be pursuing an undergraduate degree. A small percentage, 4%, 5% over the last few years pursue a two-year degree. That would be at a community college, North Shore Community College being our local one. And then some of our students go on to vocational programming, so that would be, we found an increase in that once we created our innovation pathway with advanced manufacturing. We have more training here at the school. So students are pursuing cabinetry and pursuing carpentry straight out of Mr. Natoli's program. So we find a percentage doing that. And then some students need to take a break. They go right to the workforce. That's best for them. Some take a gap year, which could be an educational process where they travel or do some type of other program before they enter the world of college. But I mirrored our questions based on the questions on our DESE report card. So my questions to the students mirror what DESE reports. So they lump in gap year and employment together. And then a few students go on to the military every year. I can report one of our students is going to the Navy in July of class of 2026. One student has committed to the Virginia Military Institute, and another one is doing Air Force ROTC at UNH. So that's what I know so far. But I think overall you can see our students have plans, they're excited. The motto of our counseling department, and I think of our school in general, is follow your own path. So while the vast majority of our students do go on to a four-year school, we don't want anyone to feel differently about their personal plans. So as we meet counseling seminars each year, we really promote, we as counselors will work with each child based on what they want to do. Don't worry about your friends, don't worry about your neighbors, focus on your path and your career choices and goals, and we'll have all the resources you need to pursue those. So we really hone that in. So for the class of 2026, we're excited to celebrate 171 students crossing that stage June 6th. And as I said, the 2026 plans are coming in now. So I think really to celebrate, over 90% of our graduating class plans to pursue education in some way, shape, or form after they leave. And then I got a little confused as I started looking at this data years ago. The DESE report card that is available for all of us online, that, when you look at the post-secondary plans on the DESE report card, they were slightly different than what I was gathering from the students. And I learned that's because DESE tracks the students and tracks them into the March of their freshman year of college to see if they're still matriculated. So you do see about a 10% dip. So the class of 2024 is reflected in the 2025 DESE report card. And so that's why there's a slight dip, because students' plans change. They might tell me they're going to a four-year school, and then they change their plans after they graduate. But it's a slight dip, and our students, for the majority, are still very much pursuing post-secondary degrees. So this is the fun slide. This is where our students are going for four-year schools. I'll send these slides to you all, or you have them in your agenda, but if you click on the pink link, that is a comprehensive list of what the class of 2025 did last year. But this these are just highlights of what our current students are doing. So if it's in white, it means that students have been admitted to the school, but the colleges in yellow mean they're actually attending those schools. Okay. So I'm gathering this data now. So a few of these are a little bit from the class of 2025, but it's mostly from 2026. So they're all across the country, and there are some private schools, some public schools. It's a wonderful list of exciting places, big schools, small schools, and they're pursuing majors in areas that they're passionate about. What I'm gathering, families are being very smart. They're making decisions about these plans based on social fit, academic fit, financial fit. So we have, as you can see, the colleges in white are fantastic, but maybe their financial aid packages at some of the schools in yellow were a little bit more enticing. So students are following need-based aid, scholarships, and grants to make this an affordable experience, as affordable as possible. So that's been wonderful to see, too, that even at their young age, they're understanding that taking hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt might not be the best choice. Because we do find our students are motivated, they're talented, they're going on to med school, grad school, law school, MBA. So they have a plan longer than 4 years. They're planning for the future. So any questions about college? We'll do questions at the end, too. So now we're looking at AP exams. So advanced placement, those are run by a company called College Board. They're classes that you can offer at the high school level that are college-level courses. We offer them here at the high school. And this is a 5-year summary of our scores so far. So this is an exciting slide. There has been a push the past few years to have more students take more AP classes, and you can see it represented here. If you look at what happened, we administered the exams from 2025 to 2024. We had 71 more students take an AP class from 2024 to 2025, and then with that 71 students, look at the number of exams increase from 417 exams administered to 603, which is a huge increase. But what's most exciting is even with that increase of students and numbers of exams, look at over on the bar graph, we're still at 80% of our students are scoring a 3 or above. And College Board counts a score of a 3 or above to determine college readiness. So that is showing that our students are taking these classes, more are engaging in these opportunities of experiencing what a college level class could be like, and they're still performing at a high level. So I love seeing that. The next slide dives a little bit deeper. So exciting that 80% of our students scored a 3 or above, but this dives in a little bit deeper to the 4s and the 5s. I should say an AP test scores you from a 1 to a 5. And scores of a 4 or a 5 are more likely to receive college credit. Every college, they use their discretion. Remember that they're a business. They don't want students to wave in and skip their whole freshman year because they're a business and they want to have their tuition. But scores of a 4 or a 5 would be more likely to earn college credit. And so if you look at our scores with the past few years, 50% of the exams last year scored a 4 or a 5, so 301 out of 603, and that's up from 40% the year before. So I thought that was exciting. And then tomorrow is our last day of the 2026 administration. We've been proctoring exams for the past 2 weeks. So this year we have 236 students testing, which is a slight dip from the 271 from 2025. But the more I thought about that, our social studies department has now rolled out a 2-year process for AP World History. So our current sophomores, we have 80 sophomores taking AP World 1, but they won't test in that subject until next year because it's a 2-year process. So that's, I think, why we see a slight dip in testing for this year. But then, exciting, 236 are testing, but we upped the exams even from 603 last year to 615 this year. So that's really quite exceptional for such a small school to have that many exams. And we're testing in 24 subjects, which is exciting. And then as we plan for the 26-27 school year, we are adding an AP class. The math department felt it was important to add what would be a traditional junior year class. We had honors pre-calculus, but the department chair in the math department felt that they could even take it a step further. So we're going to offer AP pre-calculus for any typically it would be a rising junior class, because then senior year they would be truly the most prepared as possible for AP calculus. So we're adding that as a pilot next year. And then due to some retirements, we're having new teachers take on AP, which I think they're very excited. And in order to teach an AP, you have to go to AP school in the summer. And so some of our faculty members are excited to try something new, go to AP school, and make that course their own. And that little icon there, College Board ranks schools kind of like the Olympics, gold, bronze, silver, and there's even a platinum, but we are a gold medal school according to College Board. It's, if you slide down, it's at the appendix at the end of my presentation, but they're measuring our schools on the percentage of students that take at least one AP, the percentage of students that score a 3 or above on at least one exam, and the percentage of students who take 5 or more AP exams over the course of their high school experience. So we are ranking as a gold medal school. So that's exciting. And now closing out with some SAT data. So SAT, as all of us might remember, it's a standardized test that is part of the college admissions process. But now it's optional for many schools. It's called test optional. So through COVID, the world of SAT completely changed, and all the colleges, out of necessity, had to go test optional. But now some of the most selective colleges in the country have returned to requiring the test. So students this is still a part of student life. We prepare them with the PSAT. Thank you to the district. We've been funding that through the school to offer it to 10th and 11th graders during a school day. So we are providing equal access to students taking the PSAT in the building. And that's preparing them for the SAT, which happens on a Saturday. So looking at the data, this year so far, in the 25-26 school year, 173 students have tested, but we still do have a very popular date would be the first weekend in June to test. And so that administration is still to come. So that number of our students testing will absolutely increase. Last year we had 229 students test. The typical time for a student to test would be spring of junior year, summer in between junior and senior, or the fall of senior year. So our composite scores, meaning you add up English and math, the best you can score is a 1,600 total, so 800 on each section. Our scores are averaging around 1,200, with ELA, English Language Arts, being slightly higher than math. But overall, I think these are really strong. And for the right school, these would be wonderful to send. The beauty of test optional is, as a counselor, we counsel them strategically. Let's be strategic. You might send your scores to some schools and withhold them from others based on the average that the school is putting out as to their average. So we use this strategically and use it when it's to their benefit. So my takeaways, as I think I've been talking about this all along, but our takeaways are our students are doing very well. They're pursuing their passions, and the majority of our students are pursuing a four-year college path at competitive schools. They're making smart financial decisions, following the scholarship grants and need-based aid when they're making their college decisions. Our AP program is strong, that's for sure, with scores remaining high, even with the increase in students and number of exams, and we just are giving them a wonderful opportunity to take classes at that highest level. And then I think our SAT scores remain consistent with students using them to their advantage and sending them when appropriate and withholding them when it will hurt their application. And one thing I didn't mention along, but there's 3 school counselors, and we follow the students by alphabet each year. And we're doing more, we try to continue to support the kids all the way around, from the moment they arrive to when they graduate. But we're constantly trying to better ourselves, to be knowing the most about the college planning that we can. And through the district's professional development this year, Sarah Kent and the PD committee allowed us to do a college essay workshop. So we spent our 6 half-day PDs developing a workshop basically for the kids to help them write their college essay, which is one of the biggest parts of the application, where you use your own voice. And we want to discourage families from having to pay money. We don't want you to be hiring an essay coach or a financial aid planner. We want to provide as many resources through our department as possible. And so we're constantly trying to be better at having resources ready for them. So we developed the workshop, and we will roll it out with the current, the rising junior class. That will be part of our December. Certainly with the seniors, we'll help them when they get back, and then it will be part of our process with juniors moving forward.
Wow.
So that's it.
That was great. That was great. Sasha, let's start with you. Any thoughts, any comments? This is like right up your alley. This is your thing.
Yeah, because me and Leah are gonna be seniors next year. I think that the fact that so many students here are trying new things. I know for sure I was scared to try an AP this year, but I did anyway, and I don't regret it at all. I think it's really exciting to see that the seniors, especially from last year, they're going into their own path. And they're not letting what the crowd dictate what they want to do for themselves. But the presentation was really good. Thankful that you presented it to us. Thank you.
Leah.
Yeah, your presentation was amazing. It was really great to see all like the data coming out of the SAT scores and AP exams. I think the AP courses really offer great opportunities for many students to just like challenge themselves and really try to prepare themselves for college courses. Yeah, I know many people have been taking like multiple AP courses, as you showed us with the increase of exams. I mean, I took my last AP exam yesterday, so hopefully.
Congrats.
What did you take yesterday?
Lang, AP Lang.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you both. Katie.
I appreciate all the information. I really do appreciate the financial aid and the webinars that the guidance counselors and your department sends out. It's super helpful. Is there a way to put the information about the testing on our website, just the different days that might help family members to know, like, whose kids may, not?
Oh, do you mean like when the tests are?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I just think that might be helpful. Otherwise, I think the presentation was outstanding.
Thank you for that, sure.
Thank you. Martha.
I'm so impressed with the idea of having the kids learn how to write the college essay and not have parents have to spend money for tutors and all the other services that parents can spend thousands of dollars on. I am so impressed. I love to hear how it works.
Sure, thanks.
Great.
Miguel.
Yeah, no, I loved to hear how parents are trying to be proactive in choosing schools, but also seeing the different career paths, since I know college has been the thing that's been selling for everybody all the time, but I always feel like vocational and military always get kind of forgotten there a little bit. We definitely need a lot of plumbers and electricians. So I'm glad to see that students are going down that route, and that it is like something that we separate and present to people as well. And also love seeing that our SAT score things are going up and that they're now optional. They were not when I was in school. So definitely love the direction that everybody's going in here.
Thanks.
Thank you, Miguel. John.
Thanks, Glenn. Thank you for the presentation. I think for me, my daughter's a senior now, and I've heard some of this anecdotally, and seeing kind of the context behind it has been really helpful, so thank you for that. I was particularly impressed with what's going on with the AP exams and the scores.
I know, it's great.
That's very impressive, and I think this presentation is very timely going into town meeting as well, because as a committee, we work all year on that budget, and we're saying, we need these programs, we need these resources, and I think sometimes what we're actually the goal line, which is this, sometimes gets lost in all that debate, and I think it couldn't be, looking at this, it can't be any clearer. It's like this is what we're investing in. This is what we're trying to get to. So I think this is incredibly helpful to reinforce that message.
Great.
And is there any way we can either put the whole presentation or the highlights on Parent Square just to wider dissemination?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
And just to dovetail, that'd be great to send to everybody, not just high school parents. I think everybody. I think,
Right.
because, after speaking to some people the other night, and they're saying, I have a 3rd and 4th grader, yet I'm already thinking of college. My reply is, you're a little late, but that's okay. Join the party. Join the party. I think I agree with John. If we could send it.
Yeah, that's been part of our plan, and that's what in my monthly newsletters, I give the highlights of the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, just so every family knows what's happening at every school. So we could figure out a way to.
That'd be great. That's a good point, John.
And just before I forget, I just written down a note during the presentation about, one of the improvements, again, just from the student I have now versus one I had, 3 years ago. One of the things that I know is vastly improved is that scholarship opportunity, notifications, engagement from your office.
Oh, good.
and again, it comes to the parents, so I see these things, but what I particularly like is, you know, the follow-up. It's like, don't forget, you know, the deadline's coming up on the 15th. Don't forget. You know, so there's like, you know, 2 or 3 emails that come out to remind the students, you know, that, you know, if they want to engage in that process, that, you know, they need to do that by a certain deadline. So I don't remember that 3 years ago. It was just kind of, you know, here it is, and you guys have at it, but I really like the, you know, it's additional information also, and plus those follow-ups, I think is very helpful.
Great, thank you, John. I also want to say, I mean, I had a great nephew who just finished his freshman year today, actually, at UMass Amherst, and I have a great niece who's going to Clemson next year. So I do hear a lot about this. I think two things stand out to me, and I want to just continue what John had said about letting the community know. You know, I had forgotten that we pay for the PSAT. And I think that's a message we need to scream from the highest, you know, part of town, you know, when people start to challenge our budget and what we do. We pay to make sure that every student has the opportunity to take a PSAT, regardless. And I don't know if any other school districts do that. I don't really care. We do. And I think it's important that we make a big deal, because I can tell you from sitting in this chair, it's a huge deal. I think that's great. It's interesting what you said about the SAT. I've heard that, you know, through my great niece, that, yeah, SAT is actually starting to become, you know, more mandatory now. And I think that's a good thing. Hard for you guys, because now you have to manage what do you do and what don't you do. Are you seeing any issue still with COVID in your work? COVID teaching loss or anything like that?
Not as much.
Okay. And I raise that because I received a chat email from the school committee folks, and someone was asking about juniors and seniors who were still having COVID loss. And we haven't talked about it for a bit, and so I just wanted to ask that
I
question.
think the data's pointing to they're doing great.
Yeah.
Good.
I think it might show up in other ways.
Yeah.
Socially, emotionally, things like
Right.
that. But as far
Right.
as it's starting to look like school again, I think the last year or two.
That's great. I mean, again, I, not to repeat, but, you know, what stands out is 603 tests compared to 417 last year. That's a testament to this building and to, you know, the 20-plus tests that we give. You know, students are taking it darn seriously because, as you said, one less, you know, basic class in college, hey, you can have a fun elective eventually, right? So I think it's great. My last question is about essays. Are you guys seeing any issues with AI-driven essays?
Oh, sure.
What are the colleges doing to?
It's funny, they're starting to run webinars for counselors.
Yeah.
So Holy Cross Admissions is running a webinar about AI. I think we're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But colleges admit they even use AI
Right.
to review applications.
Right.
It's not always going to be nowadays a human doing the first
Right.
pass, but
Right.
we talk to the kids, of course, about AI is going to lose your voice. And
Right.
the dashes are a dead giveaway. and
Right.
There's just so many, it's a missed opportunity.
Right.
If they have the computer write it for them. It
Right.
really has to be their story. And we encourage them to get very creative. It doesn't
Right.
have to be something awful that happened in your life. It can
Right.
be something very mundane. The
Right.
essays about the quirks of life are the best
Right.
essays.
Right.
About your camera roll or going to the grocery store. Something that makes you tick. They want to hear about it.
Great.
So, but yes, it's absolutely an issue. Yes.
Great. Well, thank you, John. Thank you for bringing this to everyone's attention, you know, to have Rachel, to have you come chat with us.
Sure, happy to
This has just been fantastic. And I agree when John had brought this up. This is timely right now. You know, as, you know, we have 8th graders going to 9th grade. We have parents, you know, we want to keep as many kids in district. And I think this is a real timely presentation. So I thank you very much for your time, Rachel.
You're welcome.
All right.
I would just say one last thing that, you know, when you look at the schools the kids are getting into, and not that that's the path for everybody, like Ms. Sturmer said, you know, you can get anywhere you want to go from Swampscott High School.
Right.
And I think that needs to be very clear, because I think sometimes people leave to go to a different school thinking they're going to get something that doesn't actually end up happening. And you know, in a lot of cases they come back,
Right.
but in some cases there's some regret there and they wish they stayed. So
Right.
we're certainly making improvements every day and looking at our strengths and weaknesses, but when you look at those schools, it's tough to argue that they can get in anywhere from here. which is great.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Armour.
All right. Before Martha talks.
I'm going to let the kids go.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You guys, thank you very much for joining. Feel free to go and
Thanks, Leah.
do whatever you got to do.
Thanks, Sasha.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Nice meeting you. I'll see you next time.
So, Martha, before you start,
Yes.
you know, and I know we're not like the select board, and we got a ton of people watching, although I know people do watch online. To me, you know, we do a lot. Budget's important. There's nothing that drives more questions, curiosity, angst, and is as important as the special education department. So I really appreciate, what you're going to say. If we have any questions, feel free. There are some questions that not only will Ms. Raymond not answer, but I won't allow. It's a very group of children and families that I hold near and dear to my heart. So just to set that for my two new members, again, I appreciate in advance. Floor is yours.
Okay, me too. I think I have to, I'd like to share my screen.
Okay.
But so I did send a request.
Let's see.
Let me see. Share. Maybe let it go. There we go. Okay, thank you very much for having me tonight. I am Martha Raymond. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. I started here in 2001. I will give people a little bit of my background because I know we have some new people on school committee. I actually was a finance major at Boston College and worked as a financial pension fund accountant for several years. And kind of as most of us in special education got kind of caught back into it for personal reasons. I have a cousin with cerebral palsy who I took care of, and that's really how I got back in the field. Got my master's in special education. I've worked in a private day program, a residential program, a collaborative, and I was very fortunate to land in Swampscott in 2001. So I've been here a really long time. And I'm really pleased to be here. I'm also a behavior analyst and special education teacher also. That's my background here in Swampscott.
Just before you go, just for, again, the new members, that Martha and I met 2002, I believe, 2002, 2003, when my son was 3 years old coming in.
Was his teacher.
Okay.
Yes. I do want to also share that Erin Wilson is here, and she is my teammate. She is the Associate Director of Special Education. She is a school psychologist. I did want to kind of highlight these other people on our team, so I have a list here of them. Erin actually is my teammate with all things financial, but also is chairing the out-of-district meetings for us. One thing I'm sure people don't also know is that students who attend private schools, so they're not captured in our Chapter 70 count, and students who are homeschooled, we also have IEP meetings for them. We may test them, we may follow them through, even though they are not captured within the count. Erin also does a great job tracking of those students and making sure that we're supporting them as well. Jessica Hanna is our administrative assistant and registrar for the district. We have 4 team chairs, one at the high school, Melanie Chandler, Christine DeJalonis at the middle school, Shannon Rowe at Swampscott Elementary, Alyssa Brothers at the early childhood, so it's going to be pre-K and K. We have a specialist in dyslexia who is actually the language-based teacher and provides the reading tutorials at the Swampscott Elementary, and that's Wendy Chalik. Liam Hurley is our school psychologist and evaluator across the district. Primarily, he will evaluate students at the elementary, but he also does out of district, and he will also do students in private schools and also students who are homeschooled for evaluations. He's excellent. And Dr. Chris Anderson is our consulting clinical psychologist. He has been with our district since I started, since 2001, and he is pre-K to 22, which is really nice. He really can follow our students, and kind of provides that clinical lens that we need for some of our situations that might be a little more challenging. I want to highlight them. It is a team process. They're a great team. So just to give a little background, I know I do bring these slides are similar every year. They are not AI generated. They are me, and they might not be as fancy as some of the AI generated, but this is my voice and the way I think and process. The IDA, our Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, we're providing a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. Those are the two real tenets that we really have to make sure that we are focusing on in our goals in the district. I was really fortunate to be in a leadership institute and a mentorship program my first year here, not my first year in Swampscott, but my first year in my role. And I was very fortunate to be mentored by Dorsey Yearley, who's a former special director in Wellesley and really prominent across the state. And she really gave us these three questions, and I really kind of lived by them. You know, what is best for the student? What is the student's entitlement? Those may be different. You know, what might be best may not be what they're entitled to. And what is the best allocation of the district's resources? So we really, all of our team members really understand that piece. And if anybody has questions while I'm going, just please feel free. Wanted to highlight some of our educational programs. We have an integrated preschool program that services about 40 students on IEPs, and there are students who are peer models, so about 65 students total. We have inclusion programs K to 12, so students who may have different disabilities, autism, ADHD, may have specific learning, executive functioning challenges, and they're supported in a full inclusion setting. We do have some resource room programs, and those might be students who might be receiving specialized instruction in reading and mathematics. We have task programs, that's grades 7 to 12, students who might be struggling with executive functioning issues at a clinical level. We have a learning academy program, which is grades 2 to 8, and that's for students with emotional disabilities. We have a language-based learning center, students, that's grades 2 to 12, and that is for students with dyslexia or communication disabilities. Our Discovery Learning Center and Discovery Point program runs pre-K to 22. It's for students with autism and students who may have intellectual disabilities. The services and placements could be from a partial inclusion to sub-separate. Learning Lighthouse program, students who may have neurological disabilities or autism. Co-teaching programs, our Harbor program is students with anxiety or may have school avoidant challenges. And then, of course, we have students who require therapy, speech and language, occupational therapy, physical therapy, counseling. And we also have a program that we work with Salem State, where we now have students who are 18 to 22 who we may go to college and take two undergraduate classes. They will also be in an internship program, and then our responsibility from Swampscott is we pay the tuition, but it's subsidized by the state, and we also pay for an educational coach. So that has been a really exciting program. The state has continued to fund that program, so when students actually age out of services at age 22, they will also have the ability to then go on campus and live. So, and that is funded through the state. So it's a real exciting program. That does not even begin to capture all the things that we do in special education, but does give a highlight of the programs. Our tiered focus monitoring report actually is now changing to the integrated monitoring review. So that is where the Department of Ed comes in every 3 years to assess us in our compliance with the regulatory requirements in special education and civil rights. In 2023 and 2024, we actually had no findings and had no corrective actions required, and that's pretty unusual. I don't know if you go to different districts, but you have to post this publicly. There are not many districts you could find that have that. We are now in the process of our self-study and will be evaluated next year, so we're already starting that process. On-site review will be winter of 2027. I guess one exciting thing, we should definitely, hopefully pass maybe some issues at the middle school, but in terms of our actual environment, we should be way ahead of the game with our new elementary school. That was one of the major, when you look at civil rights, that was a major issue with the elementary school. So that's pretty exciting when they get to come see that. Okay, so here's some, I just want to point this out, percentage of students with disabilities. You can kind of see in 2018 that we are below the state, and we kind of want to hover right around the state, which is around, let's say, 20% or so of students with disabilities. In 2022, and this definitely is related to COVID, you can see that we inch over the state, and that's primarily was the COVID learning loss with academics. Once you're on an IEP and we evaluate you, you will likely be on for 3 years. So once we've captured you in the count, it takes time for that student maybe to fall off. So it might not have been a specific learning disability. It could have been curriculum loss due to COVID, but COVID lasted so long that it was really hard to distinguish between the two. So is it still a reality in special education? Well, yeah, it is, although we're moving in the right direction. You can see in 2025, we were at 23.1%, and we've moved down in 2026 to 22.7%. So we are moving in the right direction. It'll be a slow fall off, though, because those students will not either will age out and be removed, or during a 3-year evaluation, maybe they will fall off, but that COVID learning loss was very real. Anybody have questions about that piece? You can kind of see where the bubble is. It's been there for a couple of years now. It's at the middle school. On a good note, I will share the next slide, and this is where you can see, how long does that last? Well, you can see in 2022 and 2023, our referrals are high, right? But in the last 24, 25, and 26, they've dropped back down. But that doesn't mean the students that we captured and found eligible in 22 and 2023 are still captured within the cycle, so of the count. But you can see, I think we're doing a better job. But we're really, the students, as Jason, I think, shared, we are back to normal and what school is looking like. That is a good thing. I do think there are other challenges, even despite COVID, though, that we're all now starting to see the impact of. I think mental health I talked about dramatically in 2010 when the smartphone became, over 50% of families had one. We definitely saw a huge rise in mental health issues with anxiety and depression, but now we're also finding in the tech world that it's impacting language development and it's impacting attention. So the students that we receive coming in, even at the 5-year level, have already now had exposure to learning and accessing content through technology. And so I think even our whole team and leadership team, that we all, I know, went to a 1-to-1 world during COVID, and we had to. There was not an option, but we're realizing, we have to rethink that and look at what the consequences of that can be. We also know that typing on a computer is not associated in the brain or connected to the brain to reading and language development and memory, but writing is. And so we were really thoughtful of that piece, and Superintendent Kalshman has brought that up at our leadership team in his last week. So our teams are very cognizant of that piece.
I would just say, sorry, Martha, I was just going to say that, I mean, we still need the devices because of state testing.
Right.
We just want more paper
writing.
pencil.
Yeah.
We want to sort of tone it back a little bit.
Yep, we want more writing. So I do think while the numbers are higher in special education, I do think that is part of the reason, too. So, and that I think we're all kind of confronting. So we are also graded every single year in special education about, how do we perform? So last year we got an 88, so B+. This year an 89. So that's good. I'm going to be kind of specific about, the areas that we're doing well in. And there's a couple of areas that we have challenges in. In performance, we had 13 out of 16 points, compliance, 15 out of 16, and other considerations, which are looking at our compliance with having PRS complaints, which is the problem resolution systems. That's where families can go and file a complaint if they're concerned about something happening in the district. That's where that data is captured. So I know this is a lot wordy, but I will go over it because I just kind of want to let you know, how are we graded? What are they looking at? So we are above the state, and this is good. So more of our students in the state do receive a regular high school diploma. So there are certain students that may be with us until 22 who may actually still get a diploma, But some of them may also have a certificate of attendance. But we have a good portion of our students are able to get a diploma. Our 7% of children with disabilities dropped out of school, which is below the state. I know that 7% seems high, but our number is very low when you look at the number of kids in high school. Like one student could cause that number, but we are below the state. That's a good thing. So there are, we are graded as high performing in that piece. Our students in 4th grade, so students with disabilities who are at meets or exceeds the standard, are at the higher level than the state. So that's a good thing. 4th graders are performing. We have a greater percentage of our students in full inclusion settings. We know students in full inclusion settings have better outcomes. So that also is a positive. Our students with disabilities are educated along with their typically developing peers at a high level. That is a good thing. Our students are making gains at the early childhood level at a high level, which is great. Our youth in post-secondary are employed or going to post-secondary education environments. We have no finding of disproportionality by race and ethnicity in suspensions or expulsions, or in identifying students with disabilities or by disability category. Obviously, that's excellent. Maintenance of effort is met. I think this is interesting. This brings up budget to me. I think people don't understand, in order for us to qualify for our federal grants, we have to prove that we spent the same or more money in special education. I think that's hard when people are, talking about cutting. Actually, if we did that, we would lose grants from the federal government. It does make sense why they do that. You can't pull services away from students. Okay, so I just think people need to understand that is not how special education is ever going to run.
I think that's an important note as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've tried to say that, but it's really strong to say again is
We have to
there's
prove
method
it.
to the madness what we do here. And although some people don't understand, won't understand, whatever you'd like to say, there's method to what we do every single day on the school committee.
And that's a federal grant requirement, and that money coming in is about $625,000. Equitable services, this is another thing I think people don't understand. There's a portion of the grant that we have to set aside for students who are homeschooled who may also have a disability, that we will provide some type of service to those students in collaboration with those families. Those students are not captured in the child count. So I just think people need to understand that as well. And that's a requirement. Here's our areas of growth. Our 8th and 10th grade students, their MCAS scores are below what we would like them to be. I think that is something that I'm working on with Sarah Kent, our Director of Teaching and Learning, because it's not just students with disabilities. It's actually our overall scores were lower. There's no reason for that. We should be higher performing in that area. I do think there was a little bit of an anomaly the previous year, and it actually, my North Shore counterparts also were seeing that. I think when the vote occurred, that MCAS did not matter for graduation. There was a little bit of a shift in what people's focus was, and it is still an important count. It does allow us to. Is a universally given assessment that, for a single student, it may not be as critical, but for the health and wellness of the district, it is valuable information because it is one assessment that we give universally in the same exact manner to the same children, and it is given across the state at the exact same time too. So it does help us kind of guide, like, hey, how are we doing? So it still is important, and it is tied to our performance, right? And our performance can be tied to funding. And so, I think it is important. It is not the end-all, be-all. There are other measures that we have to evaluate student progress, but as a health and wellness measure, it's important. We have a low response under indicator 14. I'm less concerned about this. It's a post-secondary survey we send a year later to students after they've graduated. I mean, I will give so much credit to Erin Wilson, who calls parents and we call the kids, but it's really hard sometimes to get them to fill out the survey. And they fill it out. It's a state survey. It's not my survey, but we do our best. So I'm less concerned about that piece. We did have one finding this year in the problem resolution system in 24-25. that gets count. You get, you can have 0 points, 1 point, or 2 points in this rubric. So we get 1 point instead of 2 because we did have one finding. The finding was in an area of noncompliance with an accommodation that was rectified immediately. But if you have to do a corrective action, it's an important system that can catch things. But those are the areas for growth. But I don't believe having one finding is an area for growth. I think, we'd like to have 0, but I feel like that we're doing well in that area.
I'd like to say that, like the part of bringing up the MCAS where it's a data point, but it's also tied to funding.
Yes.
So even if your child opts out of it, it will affect our funding.
And it's not even opting out. They don't get to opt out. They become it just says that they were absent, which is also a ding against the district for not getting participation. So there's no, yes, a parent say, I don't want my child to take, we don't force people to take MCAS, but there's no opt-out form. It's just you don't take it and we have to say you were absent, and that gets calculated into the formula. The other piece for this, why do we care that we have a 89? Well, that means we are at a labeled as meets the requirement. If you're not, it meets the requirement, you might be needs improvement or requires technical assistance. That is a really a challenge for districts who have to face that, because they have to then really allocate resources to corrective actions and reporting back to the state, which is really cumbersome and challenging when you're also trying to do your daily work. So we should be very pleased that we are not in that situation, because it allows us to do the important work that we do in Swampscott.
Quick question on.
Yes.
The first 2 bullets talk about the areas of need. It says below the state. Are we a lot below, or are we just close to the line?
We're below, not terribly below, but below enough that we get dinged for that, and it's not, this is students with disabilities, but our overall, the number of students who are meets and exceeds the state, or exceeds their performance for the whole grade in 8th grade, and the whole grade in 10th grade is lower than what we would expect. We have higher expectations for them. So as does general education go, so does special education, right? So if there's a problem across the board, it's going to hit special education too. So I expect that number to be different this year. I do. So hopefully I'm reporting something much different next year. On a good note, 4th grade is solid, so that's good. And I do think, one of the things that we've talked about, and this is a little later in my slides, but it's appropriate, multi-tiered systems of supports, right? Why is the 4th grade good? Well, we're investing there to make sure that students are getting services in mathematics and in reading. We have a schedule set up to do it. We have staff in order to implement it. And where are we moving it to? Well, we're moving it to middle school. Yep. We absolutely 100% need it there. We also need it at the high school. So, that to me is, once you invest there, you will see the returns later on too. So I think that is why you're seeing a lot of that in the 4th grade. So I expect it to change. That's what I expect. And also there's got to be areas for growth, and we know where to go. It's nice that it points us in the right direction. We know where we have to do the focus.
I would also just say that, and something I've always appreciated about the committee is that, and Mr. Raymond said it is one data point, and yes, we want to do better, but we're also not one of those districts that has an MCAS prep class, which I've taught at before, or where, drilling and driving the kids beforehand. We want them to do the best they can, but we're also cognizant of their overall mental health. I mean, we don't want them to be stressed out overly about it.
Right.
You'll hear the announcements of a lot, just do the best you can, just do the best you can. And so I think there's a line there. I'm sure we'll see improvement this year, but it's also just a double-edged sword, just so people realize that, we want them to do great, but we also don't want it to be the end-all be-all.
So I expect it'll improve. All right, the finances. Out-of-district tuition, which we know is a driver in special education. This year, the rates that went up for private and residential at 3.67%, which is more reasonable and keeping a little bit with inflation, right? You remember the year that it went up 14, and you will see that in my next graphic. I will say our collaborative, though, went up significantly. Some programs increased at an 8% level and some increased at a 12% level. And, you know, we are very supportive of our collaborative program. It is an essential piece of support in programming for students with disabilities. It allows students to have more interaction with people in their community and be closer to home. I think that's critical. But I understand it's expensive. Special education is expensive, and you know, even right now when we're looking at the state of the economy, I think it's going to be difficult, right? Gas prices are going up, and we have transportation costs. Teachers, or the amount of teachers that we have coming into the system is dropping. I think that is going to be an issue too for school districts across the Commonwealth and probably in the United States. I also want to bring up too, I know this is where a little bit attached to circuit breaker, but you know, why, you know, in budgeting for special education, you know, I work with Cheryl, and you know, and she and I give her my best assessment in December, and we close it. Okay, that's it. And you know, because you have to come up with a number at some point, but that number changes, just continues to change, even a month later. And there's a reason for that, is because special education meetings continue to occur, students continue to need services, and those services are mandated. So what the student needs, we are going to do. One thing that can happen, which actually did happen this year, is a private school can go through something called restructuring. And this year, one of our private placements did go through restructuring, and the Operational Services Division, they are in charge of setting the tuition prices. And that tuition raised significantly mid-year. We have no control over that. It was not in the budget. We didn't know. That is why circuit breakers created, right? That student doesn't change placement all of a sudden because the cost went up. They stay, and we are going to pay it. And that was not in the budget. We didn't even know about it. But that is why circuit breaker is created, because those situations happen all the time.
Can I ask two questions?
Sure.
One is probably to both of you, is, you know, the collaborative has gone way up,
Yeah.
right? They have fiscal plant needs.
Mm-hmm.
The building needs work. Do we have any handle on, is there going to be any state money? Because the building needs work.
Yeah.
And at 8% a year is not going to cut it. And my fear is that we're going to get dinged again with a 14 or a 15% increase. Have you heard anything on your end, what they're talking about for the future?
Statewide?
Well, I think they're not eligible for MSBA funding for their building. That's a
That's the
problem.
problem.
It's
That's the
capital.
problem.
I will say their programs are still cost effective for
Right.
us, even
Yes.
with those increases. They're
Right.
still a cost effective rate compared to private. So they're still not out of, you know, there was some increases that needed to occur, especially around the programs for students who have emotional disabilities
Right.
and behaviors. That's increased.
Right.
Also, they're aware. I mean, they know that every town is in a financial crunch right now. I mean, I sit on those board meetings, and you know, they're cognizant of it, but you know, they're trying to drive their programs forward and with their needs, and so the board sort of pushes back, because
Yeah.
we certainly have our own needs in town.
Yeah.
You know, we're sending our students who are most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right. And it is really,
I have said to them, though, I mean, listen, it is a tough pill to swallow that you're going up 8% or more, and we're fighting for 3.25
Right.
at town meeting. It is difficult to have that conversation.
right.
But it is, but again, the circuit breaker, right?
Okay, so I was-
we pay the foundational amount,
Right.
which is next year it's $52,000. We will pay that for every out of district placement.
Right.
Swampscott will own that, and we will recapture usually 70 to 75% beyond the 52,000 back the next fiscal year. So
Right.
there is a remedy around it
Right.
too.
It, as you said, it has always hurt us the last several years that we don't have a full year's worth of circuit breaker.
No.
For our two new members, and Katie, I know you've heard some of this. Can you give a 2-minute dissertation
Yes.
about circuit breaker?
Let me go. Do you want me to? I can go ahead because I do that.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll go ahead. Hold on. Let me go, and I'll come back to my. Okay. I'm going to kind of read this because I think it's really important. Circuit breaker was designed as a mechanism for school districts to continue to uphold the laws of IDEA, which are outside of the budget and fiscal year without impacting general education and the overall functioning of the school district. Special education expenses continue to occur after the budget process and town allocation occurs. Holding the current year's circuit breaker, so we are receiving money now that's coming in installments this year. Holding that money in a savings account for expenses that occur after the budget process closes is critical to ensure two things. The privacy of families is protected, and that special education costs are not pitted against general education costs. This policy is the best fiscal policy and is protected through a strict auditing process. Maintaining this circuit breaker level provides budget certainty and protection, so public discussion shields our most vulnerable community members. DESE had the forethought to protect the families from these types of budget discussions through circuit breaker. I also need to know it is not a fund that we get to hold in perpetuity. You have to spend the entire amount of circuit breaker, the whole amount you have to clear out the following year. So you don't get to hold it, you don't get to keep it. Right now, what we're doing is we're the money that we're coming in on this current year, we're using it to fund the budget. Also a little uncertain to be doing that. If at any point something happens in the state, it's not guaranteed reimbursement. You know, we don't even sometimes know the threshold increases every year. I don't get that number before the budget. The amount of reimbursement after the threshold varies. Some years it's 70%, some years it's 72%, you don't know. The other piece is transportation, only became reimbursable in the last couple of years. 1 year it was 0. You got no reimbursement, even though we filled out all the required paperwork. And 1 year came back at 100%. Another year it came back at a different percentage. 1 year they gave us 2 years, they gave us an increased reimbursement from 2 fiscal years prior. Very unexpected, you don't know. But what you do know is you are going to be definite, you have, the services are mandated. And what we also know is the money that comes in that year, you have to expend it the following year. All of it. It's got to go down to 0 or goes back to the state. So I don't think it's a lot to say that we keep 1 year. The current money coming in this year, that you should not be touching it.
Right.
It goes right into the next year and you spend it 100% of it the following year.
At some point, it's going to bite us. And we're going to go with our hand to the town and say, we got $1 million, we need it, if not more. And how we're doing it now, how it has been done, how it's been forced upon us as a district, is eventually going to catch up. And we are going to have a humongous problem on our hands. And by when I mean we, the town, not the school district, the town. Because unlike gen ed services, it's mandated. So we told you this the last 5 years, now the roost is home. So I agree with you 100% that at some point, unless this is fixed, we're going to run into a problem.
Well, I think I think the one thing that I think we're all very cognizant of is we're going to protect the families.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that part is really important.
Sorry to interrupt your...
Other financial implications, transportation, we do, and transportation varies. We are lucky that we belong to SEAM Collaborative, so we have, there's a group of towns that we are part of, so that when we're transporting students, there are shared runs. We don't know, though, which runs will end up shared or not shared. So that data doesn't come into me actually until I get the invoice. So I don't know, and there's a reason for that, because I'm not privy to what students in other towns, who they are or what school they're going to. That's the transportation company's purview. So they'll look and say, wow, Swampscott has 2 students going to this school, but so does Salem, and so does Stoneham, and we're going to group them together. And then obviously that run there's a cost benefit to sharing the run, but that information is an unknown. So the best predictor for us in terms of what number do we put into the budget is the previous year's cost. And that is pretty predictable. But what an invoice looks like month to month, very variable. Obviously we know staffing, but I would say overall, I know Ms. Stella's reported out that we've dropped our FTEs, despite our numbers in special education going up, because we're good at our jobs. That's why. We're efficient, we look at it every year. It's zero-based budgeting. People don't stay just because we like them. They stay because we need them, and they're attached to a service in an IEP, period. And that's it.
I think it's worth pointing out again, since 2023, we're down 41 FTEs.
Correct.
Yes.
So, I mean, the people that are here are tied to services.
Yep.
Clinical services, we actually have done something different this year, which has been great. I've been able to work with my counterparts in Lynn and Salem and Peabody, the directors, and we've had some students who had low incidence services, so had low incidence disability that I may not have a full-time person. So let's just say orientation and mobility specialist, or a teacher visually impaired, or teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing, and they've shared their staffing with us. And that has been a great cost benefit, and it's us working together to support each other. And so I've had direct relationships with Salem, Peabody, and Lynn. And we have good connections because I attend, similar to Jason, there is a North Shore directors group, and we really work closely together. So that has been a new thing, and I've only done that in the last couple of years. Education materials, AAC evaluation. So students that require speech-generated devices, like students have iPads now, and that has been a real amazing piece of development in the last several years. But there is a cost, obviously, for the software and for the hardware, but also for the consultation, because the software keeps getting updated, and was the best way to allow that student to use that piece of device. And that really requires a skilled person in speech and language pathology, but also in the tech world, and we have a consulting group that we work with. Translations have gone way up as well. I think it's actually yes, it's a cost, but I think it also shows where our values are, that, we have a diverse community, and we are committed to making sure that they have real important information in their own primary language. So I'm proud of that piece. We did talk a little bit. I did talk about the tier 1 supports and the multi-tiered systems of supports. That's pretty critical. And to be honest with you, that's where people sometimes cut first because it's not mandated. That is a huge mistake. It is something that will cost you in the long run, and I'm proud that we're really trying to invest there. There's an increased need for students with behavioral challenges. That at the younger level, I do think that is, again, the world has changed in that there were a lot of ways that when we were all young, but even my own children, who I actually live in Swampscott, my youngest is going to be a senior, all 4 went through Swampscott Public Schools. I am actually very thrilled that that iPhone wasn't out when they were born. Because what we're finding is that there were a lot of things that were just built into normal life that taught patience and persistence and waiting. And now life is not like that anymore. We know that. You can stream every show you want to watch right in a row, where when we were growing up, you waited for that night, and if you didn't get it, you missed it. Like, it was out, Saturday morning cartoons. And there was something I think that we didn't realize as a society or even community, that was really building in patience and delayed gratification for children. Even like buying things now, you can buy it on Amazon. When we were growing up, you had to go in a car and go on a trip and go get your shoe size, and then maybe they didn't have your shoes and then you had to go back. None of those experiences are really happening for our young students. And then they come into school and there's one teacher and 20 kids. And that is really hard for the child because they're not used to that piece, and it wasn't built in. It's hard for families too, because now you have to really almost think of ways that you're providing those opportunities for being patient and for waiting. And I'm really interested in, not allowing technology birth through preschool. Don't bring it out. If you leave your house, no touching it. I am interested in how that's changing the development of our students and their emotional regulation. And we know about it with the older students with the depression and anxiety, but a lot of what we know about depression and anxiety in our youngest students is that it's outward, and it looks more behavioral, and then it becomes more inward focusing when students are older. And that is a challenge that we're seeing at the elementary level. And I'm concerned about it, and that is not going to be solved by the school. That is going to be a real partnership with families and the community. And, I think I don't have the complete answer for it, but I do think we know some of the problems of why it's occurring. We also, as I said before, language, attention, memory are all being impacted by continued access to technology and streaming and touching and moving through things. And reading a long book is getting harder for grown-ups, I think, and for students. We are also, another area of financial implication for us is that we are a small district. Sometimes we have limited cohorts, and a student has a right to be in a group of 3 or more. So if I have a student who is just one student who requires small group instruction, they may go to an out-of-district placement, where if they were in a larger community, they may not. And that's just a fact of being in a small community. So here you can see the cost of out-of-district tuition over time. You can see the real steep increase here from FY20 to 23, and there's your pandemic, right? Like, there were students who actually went out of district because we did not reopen, because that did occur, who might have stayed in district longer, but there was nothing we could do at that point. The student was not going to be able to have their needs met coming 2 days a week, which is what we did for like a whole year, right? And so that happened. And then you can see the real big increase to FY24, where OSD raised the cost of private day programs and private residential programs by 14%. So that's that big jump. On a good note, you can see we are starting to level off, right? I know people have asked, well, like, how do you predict, and how well are you doing when you predict, when I say, hey, this is what I think the number is? Well, I gave you a little example. You can see FY25 projected and FY25 final came within under 2%, which is good. And my prediction for this year, which was done in the fall of 2024. So remember, that's how far back we predicted where I'm going to land in June. We're coming in a little under, although I already know that might come a little bit higher. So we're still close, which is good. And then you can see, even in the freeze that we did the fall of 2025, right, and I'm still looking at the changes for next year, it's pretty even right now. So nothing too much has changed, so it's coming in even. I've not ever gone over. So that would be a problem, right, if I really missed it and, I predicted and we went, $300,000 over and I had no idea that was happening. That has not happened. Now, could that happen? It could. Because that would happen when someone would move into the district with a really high cost placement. So it's possible, but we've done pretty well with that. So that really gives you a good sense of how are we doing in terms of our predictions. Out-of-district placements, you can also see there's a little stabilization there. Since I've been here a long time, obviously, you can see we've hovered in the high 20s to as high as 40. That is where I would expect us to hover, somewhere in that range every year. The yellow is public placements, so those are your collaborative programs. The red is students in private placements, private day programs, and the blue is residential programs. You can see there's been an increase in the residential programs, and I will say that there can be students who have maybe severe, have autism or have real significant disabilities, but also we've had more students who might require a placement for emotional challenges, and that is that mental health piece. So, and that is kind of a newer issue that is happening with kids, and I think we know that's across the country. But I think it's stabilizing a little bit, and that is a good thing. The cost, though, it's interesting. Like, the cost is remaining the same, even though my number went down, because the cost of the actual individual placements can still be high. But we do track this data over time. I talked about costs of transportation. I mean, the range for cost of one student, if it's a shared one, could be as low as $35 a day, as high as $450 a day. So that's the range. And I think about it, I know people are always upset about the cost of transportation. Well, I have a lot of respect for our bus drivers. It is a really, really hard job. We ask them to work at a time that's not that conducive, work really early in the morning for 3 hours, don't work and don't get paid, and then work in the afternoon during rush hour traffic with kids in the back. And I'm sure all of us have driven with their families with the kids in the back, and now let's put a whole bunch of kids in the back. So I have a lot of respect for what they do. They keep our kids safe, and they are not, they're listening to all the noise in the back with the kids, but also trying to, navigate and travel with them. So I get the cost. It is, it's hard to do. It's a hard job. And so I appreciate our bus drivers. We have in-district special education, transportation costs. We obviously have our general education costs. We do transport our students who are experiencing homelessness, and then we do transport students who are in foster care. So those are costs for transportation. We do have contracts, though, so at least we have some budget certainty with that. The best predictor for us is the previous cost of the previous year and escalating a bit by the cost of contract. So I feel like we're pretty stable in understanding the costs for that. I talked about circuit breaker. I think that piece is critical for all the things I've talked about, for unexpected costs that can come up. Some additional revenues that we have that come in, grants. The IDEA grant is $600,000. We use that to fund out of district tuition. That was the one I just talked about with maintenance of effort. You have to prove that you spent more money in this fiscal year than you did in the previous, or the same amount at least, in order to receive those funds. Medicaid money, we do have Medicaid money that is going into the special education stabilization account. We do have certain students who will, with parent authorization, we are allowed to send in Medicaid logs for them. It's not a lot of students because you have to have consent from the family to do that. But we do that, and then there is some money that will come in to district. There is I will say, it's improved some because we've put some in terms of liability. There is a liability factor for it. Districts, that we have a billing company who assists us with this, but they are not liable for any of anything that may happen. There's not purposeful fraud that would occur, but it is a medical model. And I will give an example. For some services, they will want to make sure that there's a medical doctor's note that says that this service is medically required. And we are not a hospital, and we are not a clinic. We are a school. So we do have some ICD codes. I'm sure you might have seen those in your employee benefits or your medical benefits when they come in. What is the code the doctor puts in so that you can get insurance? We have to use those codes as educators and work here. That is difficult, I will say, but with training, we've been using symptom codes rather than diagnostic codes, which can be helpful. But I am glad the money goes into a stabilization fund. It is captured there. There's a 7-year look back. They can come back 7 years and take money away. For example, if they saw that somebody did not have a doctor's medical note record, they could come back and sweep that money back. I think it's an unfortunate way that the state is using extra funding because we are not a doctor's office. But I don't control it. We are doing it. I have concerns about it, but we're doing it. And I'm glad that it's not money I'm glad it's sitting in a savings account, so hopefully it's not touched. That is my opinion. I know other districts do not do billing logs. They don't do it for this reason. I know districts that actually have had to give back millions of dollars for just errors of that nature. We don't follow HIPAA. Medicaid, you're supposed to. We are not a HIPAA district. I will tell you right now, we don't. We are a FERPA district, so we don't have I don't have encrypted email that's going out. So there are, I think, some worrisome risks to it, but we do it. Special education tuition, we do have some towns that have, if we have some capacity within some of our special education programs, we have considered other students to come in. There's only a few, but it is something that neighboring towns will reach out, and we may tuition in a student to one of our programs. And that means that town pays us for sending their student to our program. We do collect preschool tuition. It's a competitive rate. But I do want to just be clear, like the preschool program is a special education program that peer models attend. yes, there is tuition that comes in. It probably is roughly about $130,000. That pays for a teacher and a half. There are 20 employees in the preschool program. So I don't want people in the community to think, wow, they charge tuition, it must be self-funded. It is not self-funded. It would run regardless of the tuition that we collect. Is it a very good program? Yes, it is. Am I happy those peer models are there? Yes, I am. Is it competitive with the private preschool tuition rates? Yes, it is. But it is more expensive for what we do because it is a special education program. I just want people in the community to understand that. Here are some investments that there's continued learning that we are required to do, and I would say that's another opportunity, but also a challenge. We're getting more and more research about the science base of teaching, and so we have to make sure that we're investing in professional development and also in regulatory commitments and also in curriculum. So these are just some curriculums that we've invested in and professional learning that we are doing. I will say our assessment tools are on par with neuropsychological evaluations. There is really no assessment that you could go pay for privately that we cannot do within our district.
Can I just say that's a huge savings for the parent?
Yes.
By the way.
Yep.
And, way back in the day, that wasn't the case.
Correct.
But by having the tools to offer outstanding neuropsych evals makes a big difference to the bottom line, especially in this economy.
We also can even do the autism diagnostic observation scale, which is the gold standard for determining disability category of autism. Liam Hurley actually is the one who's trained in that. But that's unusual. But we have really great evaluation team. I also want to give a huge shout out to Sarah Kent bringing in Open Architects. That has been excellent for me in terms of evaluating the efficacy of the professional learning and in the curriculums that we're utilizing. So I can look in real time, okay, I just stuck in this intervention, let me look at the data here and then look at it here. Did I get a higher rate of return? And that's what I'm looking for. This is just a quick comment for PD, but I thought it was good to bring up that, why is it so costly? Well, it's costly because of what we used to do. Like when you think about what people used to do in special education, when you look at the history of special ed, kids didn't go to school, and that's a terrible thing. I do want to make sure you're in the building right now where Larry Eigner's poetry is etched in the windows of our library. He is a former resident of Swampscott. His cousin reached out to me because he wanted to make sure we knew his story, that he had cerebral palsy and he was not able to go to school, but he was a poet and an author, and actually a former principal of the Swampscott High School went and educated him and went and met him and tutored him. But, and so I will never forget him, and I'm so happy that we do invest in teaching our children because that is what his life was like. He sat on a porch and was not able to go to school. And we do not do that anymore. But I want to remind people, how that's where we were, and this is where we are now. And I think that's really important to remember. These are people that we're talking about, not dollar signs, right? It's an important investment.
Right, and this is where I say, and I think I've said it every year, that it's just not 3 to 22. And I think, first of all, I think the community needs to remember, it's 3 to 22.
Yeah.
It's not just kindergarten to 12th grade.
Right.
And these skills that we teach our students of greatest need follows them through. And I know I've shared this with you a lot. My 29-year-old son, Sam, was just appointed into the City of Boston Disability Commission.
Amazing.
All that comes back to how he was taught to read. Mm-hmm. And, so when people say, well, your budget's too high, well, don't throw glass houses. Don't throw that rock through the glass houses, because you never know. You never ever know. And our job, as Martha has said, at any moment anyone could become, a member of the Student Services Division. So we can never have enough money in that budget.
Well, we want to make sure we're meeting the needs of our children. I'm just so glad how far our special education's come. Mm-hmm. I think I talked about MTSS. I talked about the referrals we're getting from our neighboring school districts. I think that's important. Do want to say, like, I know people were worried about, fiscal controls and audits. We actually, in our circuit breaker audit, they shared with us that we were the only school district that had no errors in their tuition accounting. So that's good, and I'm glad, right? Because you give the money back if you make an error. But it also, I think, hopefully gives some reassurance that we know where we're spending the money. We know where it is. Outside sources are evaluating us. And again, zero findings there. Obviously, we need to continually invest in professional development. And there is the science of teaching, it's just changed. Like, what kind of curriculum should we be using? What are the instructional strategies should we have? There's an investment that we need to have there. I do think the biggest change we are going to be facing is the technology leap that is going to happen right before our eyes currently. And it has happened. At some point, we can't keep doing the things the same way. We have to meet the kids where they are, and we change. And so changing is hard. I think I put this somewhere, but I love special education because we change immediately. We do not wait. It is hard. General education's harder. Like, it does not change. It still operates on the agrarian calendar, assuming kids are out in the fields, like in the farms, because we don't go to school in the summer. That is not how people learn. We know that's not how people learn. We still do it. In special education, we don't do it. The kids come to school in the summer, the ones that need to come. So I think, that's why I love our field. We do what the student needs. I think all of us, we should be doing that everywhere. I'm not sure I'm ever going to, I might be retired before that calendar ever shifts, but it is interesting to me how I think how hard it is sometimes to get things to shift. The concerns, like I talked about, the acuity of need, kids with emotional disabilities and behavioral challenges. I think the other part that is hard for us, especially at the middle and high school level, kids who have real access to like this really competing virtual world, and they can outlast me, even if they know they can't have their phone during the day, but can get that world when they leave us. It's hard to compete with it sometimes. So I'm worried about that part, and how do we do that? There are new regulations that are coming out that we have to implement for next year on seclusion and timeout. It is a real shift in what they're proposing. It's going to have an increased demand on what we are going to need to do. I am planning to go to a training in July through Case Collaborative that will give me access to a lot of training materials. It will probably require some financial investment on our end, because there's new requirements that didn't come with funding. But one of them is, if we have a student that might require some increased services, you're going to have a licensed doctor and a licensed mental health professional. And remember, we're free and appropriate. Free means we pay for that. And so I'm working to see how that will be managed, but it is there.
Right. I do know that the MASC has been working with the state to try to get some funding, because the MASC knows that just yet another unfunded mandate.
Yeah, so we would pay for doctor's visit or that piece of it. So we're going to work on that. Talked about the pros and cons of technology and the slow movement of general education. We've had a lot of accomplishments. We keep streamlining our programs. We have both Learning Lighthouse and Learning Academy now is both at SES and SMS. We have pretty significant protocols developed in discipline for bullying, civil rights, Title IX, and other disciplinaries that are pretty complicated, but help our principals be able to navigate that piece. I think our handbook is much more user-friendly now. It is live and it can be updated by us, which is great. I do have a student resources board. I do want people to know that that's an in-district shared for our staff to be able to get links to everything new in every form and every protocol they need. We do invest in our connections program, and I will share this out a little bit because other districts were having trouble getting funding for it, but I know our superintendent, and I will say also our former superintendent, Pam Angelakis, first of all, listened but also knows that investments of this nature are critical. And what we do is we actually pay, it's $27,000 that we pay to North Shore Educational Consortium, which allows me access to a social worker, a licensed social worker, who will handle 3 cases at any given time at my direction, and they go into the home to support families for a variety of things that you could imagine that might occur, that we might not be as equipped to handle, and they go in and do this for us. And I will say it's been amazing and helpful, and can keep a family and a child supported, and I will say we've more than gotten our money's worth from that service.
Really? Okay. That's great. Does that?
It's not an employee either.
Yeah, that's great. Is
Right,
that-
so it's not an employee of ours, so we're not incurring,
Right.
on the town side, they're not incurring benefits. And, so that, I'm sure the town would be happy about, but we are getting access to that person.
Is it similar to a rep run?
Yes, but what that person will help families do is maybe get access.
Yeah.
Or,
That's
how
great.
do you fill out the forms? Who do I call? How do
That's
I
a great
get,
investment, by the way.
how do I get Mass Health? Like, how do I
Yeah.
fill that out?
Right.
Which doctor should I go to? Because, and I will say it's been so worth it and so supportive. And the people we work with are excellent.
Yeah.
They come to meetings with us. They support the family. I've told the North Shore Consortium, I will go to other superintendents and Jason, when you're at the round table, it is worth every dime.
Right. That sounds great.
And you can imagine the host of things that could possibly happen to a family that you might need that support.
Right.
And we're doing, and this again, I think another huge plus for our district is our relationship with our union. Obviously, we know that there were some real critical times for our neighboring communities that we did not have to navigate. And one of the things that we implemented this year through negotiations was meetings that Erin and actually I both attend with our special education representatives, but also our support staff, our ESPs and tutors. And we were able to really kind of get into problems or concerns quickly and manage them and solve problems quickly, which I think just, again, shows like the leadership of our superintendent for keeping our relationship really good and supportive. It means we all can do our jobs, right? And those were just some of the things that we solved. The ESPs asked for walkies, and like we solved that in a day. But like that might have been something that might have like waited until negotiations. I'm like, no, so this has been good.
Right.
It's been great experience.
Right, and that, for the 2 new members, that's really what goes to the interest-based bargaining we were
Yeah.
talking earlier tonight. It makes such a difference. And
It does.
And we were not like some of our, closer towns that we could talk about these, and it was said, we'd really like these meetings, and okay.
We did
No
it.
one's ever brought it up. Sure, it's a great idea.
Yeah, and they worked.
That really is kudos to, everyone in this room, including Ms. Angelakis, who brought in the interest-based bargaining.
Yep.
And I would strongly suggest that we continue doing that.
Yeah, it's been excellent. I think our relationship is good, and we're solving problems, and that's a good thing. Helps students, helps families, helps us. All of us do our jobs. All right, and that is my presentation. I know for both you, Martha and Katie, this is a very similar presentation that I will do every single year. Gives you a framework of what to expect. And does anybody have any questions?
Katie?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to give kudos to the entire team. Special education is emotional for the families and for the district. And I just think you do it with class and with kindness, and I know that I appreciate it. And I'm sure that even though tensions can be high at times because you're advocating for your kids, I think you do it. And I mean, the entire team does it really well, and we're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
John?
Martha, thank you for that. It was very, very informative. One question I was thinking as you were going through it is, do you solicit any sort of parental feedback at any point, just to say, hey,
How are we
is there anything we could have done better?
Yes.
Rather than just, an angry parent like sending a nasty email or something, and, just looking for additional opportunities for improvement?
So yes, so we do, I don't want to survey people out, but we did do a survey last year, and Aaron and I, we called every parent who had, we put in, if you'd like us to call you, we called every parent who had, a problem or wanted to talk to us. And so we do that. I will say, as part of the integrated monitoring review, they're going to send out a survey. So the Department of Ed will send it out, and then I'm going to get the results back on how parents are grading us and our performance. Usually the feedback I've had for surveys that I've done over time from parents, we run 80 to 85% where people are happy, and, there's usually 15% who think we can do better. That seems, I know we can always do better. To me, the hardest and best thing about being an educator is that the hardest thing sometimes for me is that I could never be done. I could work 24/7. I would always have something else I could do. I'm never, ever going to get it perfect. I'm never going to ever finish it. But I also say that's also the part I love about it. Every day I come in, something's different. It's always, there's no day that's boring. There's always something happening. But we do get feedback from families too. I will say our CPAC is another, that's the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. It's not very active, but I do have good connections to the, we do try to keep in good, we have meetings. But I do think that might be, sometimes it's a statement to maybe our communication is good and more transparent. So, it tends to be more active when people are feeling like, hey, I don't know what's going on. Or, and I feel like maybe that's why it's been not as active. And I also, you don't want just a small group of families to be, I want every family to have a voice. And I will also say we're not very layered. Like, we're pretty open door. Like, you come in and call me, call Aaron, call our team chairs. Like, you can get an answer quickly from us. Like, I don't make people wait. It's hard enough. Parenting in general is hard enough. But when you have a child with a disability, it's harder. And there's not, I understand that and don't make people wait for answers. So, but yes, we do get feedback. That was probably a long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Martha?
Well, you have wowed me. That's all I'm going to say. I'm so impressed with all of the information that you presented. And I've heard so much about you and the SPED department that, and you have lived up to everything that I have heard. So I thank you so much for that.
Right.
A couple of things that I heard
Sure.
that I just really loved
Yep.
was the idea about the connection with Salem State
Yep.
for kids who can go to college. I've never heard of that before, and I'm so impressed with that. Another one that you mentioned was working with other districts to sort of cut costs for
Yeah.
services. Again, kudos, because I think it's a great idea. And most important, I love the idea that you're all thinking about reducing the technology a little bit and maybe having children and students writing more.
Yes.
So I just,
That's not really new. I would say, like, I've been saying that, like, we know the brain research, right? But I will say, like, it's now becoming a topic, like, you're seeing it in the New York Times. You're seeing it, like, people are like, whoa, the pandemic, people went full force.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pullback time, you know?
yeah, that was great. That was great. Thank you so much.
And I know it's a lot to digest, so if people leave and they're like, okay, I have a question now, I can,
Right.
well, you know where I am, I can come back.
Right. We got.
Yeah, no, just to add a little bit to like the attention part of technology, definitely a change from early technology to now, since I know that's been definitely a thing that I covered with people that are younger, and just being like, hey, like back in my day, Word did not autosave, and sometimes it crashed, and I lost an essay, and I had 2 hours to redo it all again. Or even video games where you died, you lost, you start all over again from the beginning. There is no guide or arrows or things like that. So definitely like seeing students writing more or anything like that, since I know there's the brain stuff that really solidifies a bunch of things for kids. And as Martha said, joining the committee towards the middle of things, which I joined during the middle of negotiations. I do remember the special ed presentation, and glad to see that things are like coming out of that are moving the needle for our team there, since they definitely do a lot. And it's great to see that they're feeling more comfortable now to voice some of their concerns and things and not have to wait for a negotiation.
We have amazing staff, I will say that. We really do.
Thank you as always. I wish 100 people could hear this presentation. I wish 100 people could hear it Monday night. 238 people could hear it Monday night.
Well, it's recorded, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Put it out the link.
Right. As always, thank you to both of you to do what you do. The team works incredibly hard. And if I know, for IAM and the people in the state level who I speak with, we are the envy of what, student services in Eastern Mass, if not beyond, for what we offer, for the services to treat every student with dignity, with respect, and that they can learn to the best of their possible ability. So I really thank you both very, very much. This was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You have one more thing. Sorry.
Yes. Oh, sorry. All right, we have a quick little update. So just so everybody knows, graduation dates and moving on ceremonies. The high school graduation is June 6th. At the field, pending weather, we have to make that call on Thursday. Graduation's on Saturday, but we have to make the call on Thursday. We'll let everybody know. 4 o'clock. God, I'm glad you told me. I would have been. We are, I think consensus is everybody would like to have it outside. I think everybody wants an outside graduation. And we'll do everything we can to get there. Unless it's torrential downpours, then we'll move inside. But we have to make that call on Thursday, like every other district does, because of the chairs and the cost of moving it. But just so you're aware, SMS is June 17th at Swampscott High School, and the SES moving on is June 18th.
Great.
Right. Martha and I both have the privilege of going to the ADL breakfast, the Law and Education Day at Danversport. We brought about 20 students. Listened to Swampscott author David Shribman. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. He spoke eloquently. We had DA Paul Tucker was there. The Attorney General Andrea Campbell was there. Miss Mackey, Miss Raymond, Miss Woodfin, Miss McDonald, Miss Sodom, and myself. It was a great day. And our kids were so impressive, as always. They did a great job. The junior prom was quite a hit. The kids had a blast. They were, it was at the Ipswich Country Club. They were well behaved and represented us so well. I think for anybody in sort of my role, that's a stressful night. You're sort of waiting for the phone to ring. And so finally around like 11:30, I texted Ms. Sauter, like, nothing, we good? She's like, we're good.
I was waiting for my phone to ring too.
Yes,
so.
yes. So that was great. As Sasha said, the Heritage Festival's moved now to Saturday. So hopefully we get a good turnout there. And like you spoke about, the SEF event was wonderful, and hopefully that it's the first of many more to come.
Right.
So, and then the last thing I had was just the enrollment for non-resident teacher students.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 new students enrolled for next year that we approved, plus the 8 that are already in the district. Okay.
Good. Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So there's no subcommittee reports, I don't believe. We'll kind of tackle that going forward. So actions and votes. With A, B, C, and D, we actually do have to do it one at a time because it is MOUs. But let's start with the memorandum of, let's start with the protocols vote, if we could. I'd like someone to make a motion to approve the Swampscott School Committee protocols, School Committee operating protocols for 26 and 27. I'll make those very minor changes, and I will get that to Nancy. It won't be till Monday. I have one more graduation to attend to. Can someone please make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the school committee protocols with the pending edits.
Great. Someone second, please.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, there is none. It passes unanimously. All right, so now for the community to know, prior to this meeting, the school committee was in executive session, and we talked about memorandums of agreement between the Swampscott Education Association and the school committee. All of these tie back to last year's negotiating sessions with, again, interest-based bargaining. There were 4 issues that we wanted and the SEA wanted us to discuss. We wanted to collect some data, so it took a little bit of time, but it was nothing that would have prompted a delay in the contract. So there are 4 items to approve today, and again, as I said, again, to the community, we did meet as required by law in an executive session. So the first one, let's do, hold on, my order is wrong. Stipends, is an agreement again between, a memorandum of agreement, pardon me, between the SEA and the Swampscott School Committee. It has updated the stipends across the district. Many were taken out, some were enhanced. We talked a lot about it at our executive session. We've talked a lot that we're probably not where we need to be as far as some of these stipends, but we're getting there slowly but surely. You know, we always have to make sure that we don't want to be at the top, we don't want to be at the bottom, we want to be someplace in the middle where we're not really there yet in the middle, but we're getting there. So can someone please make a motion to accept the memorandum of agreement between, by and between the Swampscott Education Association and the Swampscott School Committee regarding stipends?
Make a motion to accept the memorandum of agreement between the SEA and school committee for stipends.
Someone second, please.
Second.
Second, just so the community knows, it was about $28,000 that has already been baked into our budget. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, let's put that over here. Next, teacher coverage, memorandum of agreement between the Swampscott Education and Swampscott Education Association and the school committee. This is for ESP tutor coverage. And can someone please make a motion to do this, please?
Make a motion to accept the teacher coverage memorandum between the SEA and school committee.
Great, can someone second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Next, we have tutor evaluation, memorandum of agreement between the Swampscott Education Association and Swampscott School Committee. Can someone please make a motion to accept?
Make the motion to accept the tutors evaluation memorandum of agreement between the SEA and school committee.
Great, can someone second, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then lastly, the ESP evaluation, MOA, between the Swampscott Education Association and the school committee. Can someone please make a motion to accept?
Make a motion to accept the ESP evaluations memorandum of agreement between the SEA and school committee.
Can someone second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. All right, the consent agenda. The consent agenda is designed to expedite the handling of routine and miscellaneous business of the district. The school committee may adopt the entire consent agenda with one motion. At the request of any committee member or members, any item or items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda for discussion. Before we approve, there are 2 items on the agenda. One is a donation, one is regular session minutes. As per our protocol, I will read the donation and then we can approve the consent agenda. The donation is from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Essex District Attorney's Office in Salem, Paul Tucker. And it is for safe post-prom and graduation needs. A fantastic donation from the Essex County District Attorney's Office goes an awful long way to make sure that our students are safe. That's the most important thing. As again, I said, I was waiting for your phone call.
One more to go. One
just
more
in
prom
case.
to go.
Just in case. So thank you to Mr. Tucker for that donation. The other item is regular session minutes from April 30th. Can someone make a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda for the donation and regular session minutes.
1 second, please.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, without further ado, can someone make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Someone second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are out.